e nā mana, e nā reo, e nā mata o waka, o ia manga, o ia awa, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. Honourable Consigliera, distinguished guests, Josep Maria Montfort, ladies and gentlemen, it's a real honour for me to be here this evening to join in this celebration of more than 30 years of innovation and research by IRTA. My brief words just now in Te Reo, the language of the Māori people of New Zealand, was a greeting to you all, to all people from all languages, from all the waka that brought us here over the sea and over the land, from all the mountains and the rivers of your homelands. Greetings and welcome, and it's a pleasure to be here to join you. And one of the reasons I said that is because science is a very international undertaking. And today is a great example of this, with people from around the world, many countries, many parts of Spain, many parts of Catalonia, here for this celebration of IRTA. And at a time when there are rising barriers, even walls, being created, international connections such as this are even more important. Our relationship with IRTA began 17 years ago with a visit by Ignacio Iglesias. This started an excellent collaboration which continued to develop, first in apple and pear breeding, and then into fruit genetics and other areas of molecular biology, so I must acknowledge Pere Arus for his leadership in that area, but also into consumer science, bioprotection, and many other areas of science. And I'd like to acknowledge some of our friends at IRTA, some of the ambassadors who helped to develop this relationship. Following Ignacio Iglesias' visit, Joan Bonani, greetings. He visited to New Zealand, this long trip, which Eleuther mentioned. So IRTA made the first, reached out to make the first connection. So we are sister organisations, but they are the big brother. We are only 24. So Joan Bonani visited and proposed this joint breeding program for apples and pears, which continues today and is very successful. Josep Tarago visited us in New Zealand, and my predecessor, Paul McGilvray, made a return visit here, and together they formalised, confirmed the relationship with a memorandum of understanding which was signed in 2002. And last October, it was my pleasure, together with Josep Maria Montfort, to sign the latest version of that agreement. So our relationship continues to grow and develop. My colleague Alan White, just now mentioned by Eleuther, was closely involved in the early stages of the relationship. And just as an aside, it is a long way to come here, but I never have any trouble finding people who want to come to visit your lovely city, your lovely state, and to visit all their friends here. So Alan told me recently that his lasting impression, his strong impression of his dealings with IRTA through these early stages when we were developing the relationship, was the honesty, integrity and fairness of Josep Tarago and his team, and something which continues today under the leadership of Josep Maria Montfort. And I must echo that opinion. From 2004 until 2008, Jill Stanley from Plant and Food Research was based here at IRTA head office, working with people such as Augusti Fons and also Begonia de la Calle. So Jill says hello. And this was successful in creating further collaborations between our two institutes, but also together with other institutes here in Europe. In Plant and Food, for us, our interest is not here to keep an eye on Europe, but to come and learn and to exchange ideas with institutes which have a similar approach, a similar way of thinking. So since that time, we've continued to develop our collaborations and exchanges of many staff. This has included not only research, but also sharing ideas on commercialisation, management of intellectual property, organisational development, many topics. For plant and food research to do the best that it can as a research organisation, we must collaborate with similar organisations around the world, and our relationship with IRTA is very precious to us, very valuable. From the beginning, both institutes recognised that we had a similar philosophy and a similar aim to conduct high-quality research that has both scientific impact, but also commercial, environmental, and social impact. In our experience, there are only a few scientific research institutions around the world that have such a similar way of thinking as we found with our sister organisation here. A similar approach to mission and purpose. And hearing the speakers here earlier today, Josep, Conchita, it reinforced that message for us. Also, Laia, hearing the customers talk, it sounds so familiar, I think I can understand Català, because it is exactly the way we like to think about our activities. In short, estamos muy simpático. And not surprisingly, there are representatives of other research institutions here, very respected around the world, where we also feel we have a lot in common, and that those other institutes here are today here to share in the celebration of IRTA. These international connections will be even more important for plant and food research as we look ahead to the significant challenges, very much the same as Josep Maria Montfort mentioned. These include the impact of climate change and global warming on food and agricultural production in New Zealand as well as in the rest of the world. So most of the issues that are facing us, that are looking ahead as challenges for plant and food research, are global issues that we all share. In New Zealand, not only climate change, but also biosecurity. So as communication increases, easier to travel, greater contact between people, trade increasing, that interconnectedness of the world also increases the biosecurity threat that comes with it. For more than 150 years, New Zealand has been the last country before the Antarctic. And so that has protected us over time from many plant pests and diseases. But every year, new ones arrive. And so we must keep science must keep ahead of those threats in order to maintain our livelihood. Another similar area, again, which is mentioned by Josep Maria, is we have 2 billion more people expected on the planet in the year 2050. Already, almost 1 billion people go to bed every day hungry with not enough food. 30% of food that's produced never gets to the consumers. All of these things are common problems for us around the world. New Zealand can only feed maybe 40 million people, but maybe our technologies can help to feed the growing number of people on the planet with a lower impact on the natural capital of the environment. So you said all the things I wanted to say, Josep Maria, so it'll keep my speech shorter. Our work in New Zealand on climate change predicts that major horticultural production areas will become hotter and drier with more extreme weather events and more variable climate, more variable weather. New pests and diseases are likely to establish breeding populations in New Zealand, and ones we already have will extend their range. The solutions for these problems will include new cultivars, new horticultural management practices, new knowledge. We were not thinking about these things when we started our collaborations with IRTA 17 years ago, to breed and understand the genetics of apples and pears, for example, suitable for hot, dry climates. But clearly this kind of knowledge will be valuable for New Zealand to meet these challenges in the future. Other challenges which we have in common with IRTA include big data science, digital horticulture, new breeding technologies, gene editing. We're trying to think of it as precision breeding because it changes some of our definitions, traditional definitions of what is genetic modification and what is not. Synthetic and plant-based foods. These are all topics that are important for us and which we have in common with your fine institute. And at a time when people everywhere are every day challenged with conflicting sources of information, fake news, exaggerated claims, we know that science has an important role to play for society in extending the boundaries of knowledge and disseminating evidence-based information. So for all these reasons and more, Plant and Food Research will continue to work with IRTA and to broaden and deepen our relationship. On behalf of the Board of Directors, the management and staff of my institute, I congratulate IRTA on over 30 years of high-quality science achievement and impact. And to the Honourable Consigliera, your predecessors, the people of Catalonia, congratulations on supporting the establishment of growth of such a fine institute. It is truly one of the treasures of Catalonia. Muchas gracias.